Two teams with uneventful off seasons, good offenses, and ho-hum defenses. They're going to take stage Saturday night, which is going to be almost exciting as the movie Interstellar. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Preseason, we're doing a crossover. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals, Marcus Mosier, Locked On Cowboys. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Join all the action at FanDuel to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer this MLB season. The Interstellar thing really quickly, because we've talked about everything we need to talk about, and we still got a month to go. I get a message from Marcus at about 11:30 his time on a random night after I tweeted out, what the hell did I just watch with the movie Interstellar? And he and I proceeded to DM for an hour about a movie that made my brain melt. And I didn't realize that the super fan himself was one of my close friends in this business.
Do I wish I could go back in time into the bookshelf and tell myself, like, hey, don't be a Cowboy fan. Like, pick the Patriots. Like, part of me wishes I could do that. But for people that didn't watch the movie, go out and watch it. One of the best of all time.
Yeah, just make sure you're sitting down because you could fall over. So we're going to hit the offseason storylines. Obviously, there haven't been any games played yet. We're going to talk about how we got to this point with both of these teams, what the most important things are to look for on Saturday, where most starters will most likely not play on either side. And with that, what determines success for both teams at game's end. So, Marcus, both kind of ho-hum offseasons for this team. Retaining talent, which the Cowboys did with a couple other guys. Talk to me about what the Cowboys offseasons look like.
So if you're a Cowboy fan, all you want is a quiet offseason. We've had so many over the last 7-8 years that have just been messy with like Dak Prescott contract stuff, CeeDee Lamb contract stuff, Micah Parsons contract stuff that eventually resulted in a trade, Jerry Jones saying wild things. We just wanted one somewhat normal offseason. And then for the most part, I think it happened. Like the Cowboys kind of squashed the George Pickens contract stuff early on. They told him he was going to play on the franchise tag. They weren't negotiating a deal with him. That took away a lot of the drama. There wasn't any other big contracts that they were worrying about. So for the first time in 15, 20 years, it's been nice not having to worry about, okay, who's going to show up to camp? Is this guy happy? Is this guy not happy? That doesn't mean the Cowboys are going to be good or bad. I mean, who knows? But they're finally functioning like a normal franchise for once.
You know, it's funny. I compare Michael Bidwell to Jerry Jones, not because they're exactly similar by any stretch, but it's kind of like a knockoff version. It's like, you know what? I run things differently here. It's fine. Look at all the Super Bowl rings we have, and then you look at the mantle, and there's none with the Cardinals. So the dysfunction lies with the owner, much like with the Cowboys, but at least he's always trying to improve things, even if he gets in his own way. With the Cardinals, it was very much, just sit on your hands the entire offseason. They went through the draft, made some splashes in the draft with Jeremiyah Love, obviously drafting Carson Beck. They've retained pretty much everybody, lost Jalen Thompson, Calais Campbell, in his 38th year, went somewhere else. And then Dalvin Tomlinson obviously cut too. But the Cardinals are pretty much running it back with Mike LaFleur as a first-time head coach. And so far, Marcus, color me surprised, it's kind of working. Like Mike LaFleur's kind of working. You had the thing with Shoddy last year where it's like, that's an interesting choice. You thought you were going to get more of a splash signing. The Cardinals needed anybody to want to be a head coach for the Cardinals. And both, it was an arranged marriage. Both wanted what the Raiders got. The Cardinals wanted Clint Kubiak. Michael LaFleur wanted the Raiders job, and here we are. But so far, it's been kind of fun, at least on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and I was doing some research for another project that I was working on earlier this week, and I was over at PFF looking at some of the premium stats, and you look at the highest graded quarterbacks so far in the preseason, and they're like all Arizona guys. And you look at like the adjusted completion percentage, and their top three quarterbacks are completing like 95% of their passes when you factor in drops and all that kind of stuff. So clearly LaFleur is making this offense easy on the quarterback, and they're getting easy throws. They're doing it efficiently. And I think that's ultimately the goal for Brian Schottenheimer as well. Like Dak Prescott is an unbelievable quarterback, but he shouldn't have to be Superman on every single play. He doesn't need to try to bail them out of every 3rd and 14 and 3rd and 15. If they can run the ball a little bit better, and this is where Clayton Adams, former Arizona Cardinals offensive line coach, who is now the offensive coordinator for Dallas, if they could run the ball a little bit better, be better up front, maybe they can take away some of that need to be Superman from Dak and just allow him to be a game manager. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory sense. I'm saying that as a go out and win games, Dak. And if that means, only throwing the ball 24 times, but completing 19 of them and being efficient on first down, that's how you can go out and win football games.
It's going to be interesting because while both of these offenses are going to be high powered, it's interesting. You look at the Cardinals like that. It's like, really? You're going to tell me the Jacoby Brissett led team is going to be high powered? It's like with the offensive the scheme that is being implemented, like I use it as they've got the cake now. Not every team has the cake. The Cardinals have the cake of the McVay offense, the Shanahan offense. It could be poisonous, but they've got the cake. So it's just a matter of what Mike LaFleur's variant looks like. And I believe that Jacoby Brissett, as a true dictionary definition game manager, and by the way, Tom Brady's the best game manager in the history of football. So that just doesn't mean you're like an average quarterback. Peyton Manning, second best game manager in the history of football, whatever. If Jacoby Brissett can just maintain and allow the offense to run the way it's supposed to run and let Mike LaFleur do everything else, the Cardinals are going to surprise some people. When you're looking across the country from where you live and across, a couple time zones from the team that you cover, do you see that with this offense? Everybody's grading them the worst team in football, the worst team in football, the worst team in football. I'm like, they've got some studs on this offense.
Yeah, and it's really because of a first-year head coach and Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, right? And it's understandable, right? This is a team that maybe lacks the star power at coach and quarterback, and for a lot of people, that's just how they judge, franchises. It also doesn't help that Arizona is in the best division in the NFL right now. Yeah. And this division is one of the strongest I think I've ever seen, where you had 3 12-win teams from last year. So you look at those 3 playoff teams and you look at the Cardinals, and it's not hard to say, okay, well, they're going to be the worst team in the league. They're going to go 0-6 in those games. But you're right. Like, this is an offense that put up a lot of points last year. I mean, Jacoby Brissett was really, really good in these games. And that's why I thought it was funny when there was so much pushback on Jacoby Brissett, wanting a new contract, and not really, he didn't want 30 or 40 million a year. He wanted 15 million a year. And everybody's like, oh, that sounds way too much for Jacoby Brissett. But go look at the numbers. Like, he outperformed guys like Aaron Rodgers last year, who people still like for whatever reason. I think Arizona's just in a weird rebuilding stage where they have all this young talent, but they don't have that young quarterback yet to pair it with it. And that's why they're kind of like out of sight, out of mind.
So talking about this, because you went through last year, what the Cardinals are going through this year, Brian Schottenheimer, first year as the head coach there, went 7-9, kind of underwhelming, especially for, the Cowboy standard of 10 plus wins every year. The Cardinals beat them like they stole something in week 9, which was the last great moment the Cardinals had last year, which is so out of pocket, Marcus. Like, they were scoring the second most points per game in the NFL last year. And then Walter Nolan's first game comes in and they hold him to 1 offensive touchdown. It's like, where the hell did this come from? Now,
well, if you know anything about Cowboy Cardinal history, like the Cardinals always seem like they upset Dallas, so it wasn't surprising that way at all.
But still, they were scoring 30 points a game.
Yeah.
And they held him to 1 touchdown. Anyway, so Brian Schottenheimer's first year wasn't a sexy hire, was kind of a head scratcher. He seems to be taken with it. The team seems to be taking to him. What does 7-9 look like for a first-time head coach who had expectations significantly higher than that because of the team that he coached?
It was rough. By the way, that game was so weird that I thought it was going to be the reason why the Cowboys were going to hire Jonathan Gannon to be the defensive coordinator. And then he bombed the interviews, and that's why he's not here. Anyways, it was a very strange season because in a lot of ways it felt like the Cowboys season was over by the time we got to Halloween. They were 4-6, I think, at the time, and they just weren't, nothing was going right. They rattle off a couple wins. And then they had that weird game against the Cardinals where they couldn't do anything. And that was kind of the end of their season. But I think there's some expectations now as we go into 2026 that the defense can be better. But and this is what Landon McCool and I talked about all year, all we wanted to see from the 2025 Cowboys was trying to figure out if Brian Schottenheimer was the right guy for the job. And honestly, coming out of the season, I don't know. I still don't know if Schottenheimer's the right guy for the job. But if you're a Cardinals fan and you come out of the year and the offense is it's clicking and it's clear that he's 1 step ahead of the defense, and maybe they only win 4 games, but you feel really good about your head coach, I think I would call that a successful season.
Yeah. And we'll talk about the most important things. The offense working is the most important thing for the Cardinals in 2026. Marcus Mosier, Locked On Cardinals. Alex Clancy. Oh, no, Locked On. What are you? Cowboys? Alex
Locked On
Clancy,
Cowboys,
Locked On Cardinals. Yeah. It's been a long day. The most important things is we probably see a lot of backups on Saturday, but there's still a lot of important things to discuss. We'll talk about it next. This episode of Crossover Thursday is brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel's giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's easy to play. Just make your free pick for who you think will hit a home run in their game. If you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every day throughout the MLB season. And Daily Dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every day's games, whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on matchups across the league. And every game has someone capable of going deep. Now you can get the chance to make your prediction before first pitch. Hell, you can pick every Dodgers player if you want. They hit bombs all day long, even though they've lost a bunch of games of late. You want to see if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to hit his first home run of the season, something crazy like that. He's fallen off a cliff. But anybody who is playing in a game has the ability to hit a homer. And if you're ready to play your game today, join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play Daily Dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. All right, Marcus. So as we're recording this, there's not been official word on who's playing on Saturday. So if something comes out before tomorrow morning when this is going to be posted, we didn't know that. So we weren't omitting things from you just as a science experiment. Marcus, the most important things for the Cowboys for the next 2 weeks in the preseason are what?
Who is the RB2 for this team? Is it Jaden Blue? Is it Phil Maffa? Is it Malik Davis? That would be my bet right now. Or, and this is something that Leda and I have speculated for a while, could they be looking at a running back on another team? And let's just say, I don't know, the Arizona Cardinals, who have 15,000 running backs, who Clayton Adams also knows a little bit. Well, we know Jeremiyah Love is going to be the starter there. They paid Tyler Algier a bunch of money. James Conner's a little bit banged up right now, but is he someone that could be available? What about someone like Trey Benson? I know that's somebody the Cowboys front office liked at one point in time. They've got to figure out this RB2 situation because they want to be a physical football team. And the only way that they're going to win in December and in January is if they can run the ball. And I love Javonte Williams, but he cannot have the same number of touches that he had last year. And I think these next 2 preseason games are all going to be about figuring out if anybody on the roster outside of Javonte Williams is worth holding on to.
Yeah, that's fascinating because anybody that follows Marcus knows that Jaden Blue isn't the guy that he thinks they need for RB2.
Correct.
Which is difficult. So with the Cardinals, an embarrassment of Mitch's in the run game. I think Trey Benson is interesting. He's been linked to Green Bay, to go back with JG and they, with the John Jacobs thing. He hasn't been able to play. I mean, the best ability is availability. Is he healthy now? No, he hasn't been practicing at full speed. He got banged up somewhere during camp. He was on IR for the entirety of last year. He had one game where he was starting without James Conner and then he got hurt. So he ripped his entire knee, not to say that, lightly in college. And then, he hasn't been able to stay on the field. So, I mean, for the Cardinals, I'm just playing the hits. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. It doesn't matter who the receivers are out there. If the receivers are being schemed open, that's all I care about. If the quarterback is hitting in stride, that's all I care about. There's a lot of timing in this. It's a lot about the breaks. It's a lot about how deep the drops are with the breaks. Everything is very, very much intertwined. And then when you have the outside zone run block scheme that is being implemented with Chase Bisontis going down, it's the offensive line depth, the entirety of the offense, Marcus, is it. That's all the microscope is. I don't care what numbers and what players are playing out there. If it's working, it's working. And I think that matters. Does that matter to you with an offense? It doesn't matter who's out there?
Yes, because I think the best coaches in the league figure it out. And this is why I continue to say Kyle Shanahan is the best coach in the NFL because he can go out and the game last year where they went to Philadelphia in round 1 of the playoffs and they had no George Kittle. They had no receivers. The offensive line basically lost everybody. Christian McCaffrey couldn't outrace one of us in a race.
Yeah.
And they go out there and they score 24 points and they win a road playoff game against one of the best defenses in the league. That is coaching. That is somebody that has a standard and a standard of play that he makes sure that everybody on the team lives up to. And you're hoping that LaFleur can do the same thing. And we should say Matt LaFleur in Green Bay has had to deal with similar issues. They've had a bunch of injuries in the offensive line, a bunch of injuries at receiver. Malik Willis came in and played a bunch of games for them last year, and they were still scoring 30 points. If you can come out of the preseason and then the regular season with the idea or the hope that LaFleur is the answer in Arizona, I think you're going to be really happy about the direction of the franchise.
Yeah, and I think, I'm getting, and I want your thoughts on this just about the offense, because I want to ask you about the wide receivers in Dallas. I'm setting people up for disappointment. I'm preparing people to be disappointed with Jeremiyah Love's numbers in 2026. Not because he doesn't play a lot, but because an embarrassment of riches in an offense set is this: everybody eats. It's like everybody's going to eat. Tyler Algier is going to eat. He's going to score a bunch of touchdowns. They have 3, you would hope, top tier guys in McBride, Marv, and Michael Wilson. They're going to need to eat. Like, there's going to be a lot of dispersion of targets and handoffs and carries. And when you see that with Dallas, it's usually a running back and 2 wide receivers. I mean, Jake Ferguson is peppered in there, but it's like this dispersion is going to be more vast. Are you okay with Jeremiyah Love not having 1,600 all-purpose yards and 12 touchdowns because he was drafted number 3 overall?
Yeah, and honestly, it makes sense, right? Like, you draft Jeremiyah Love at 3, and the idea is that by the time we have this rebuild complete, he's going to be in the prime of his career and he'll be fine, right? You don't need him to have 375 touches as rookie. In fact, I just don't think that makes any sense. That's why I thought it was so reckless to have him out there playing as many snaps as he did last week and getting 14 touches in a meaningless preseason game. I look at like Bijan Robinson with the Falcons during his rookie year, and coincidentally, Tyler Algier was also there.
Yeah.
214 carries, 58 receptions. He had about 1,300 yards from scrimmage and 8 touchdowns. Now, is that Ezekiel Elliott in 2016 or Todd Gurley as a rookie? No, but you could see the talent as his career's gone on. He's bulked up a little bit. He's become more comfortable being the lead guy. I think that should be the path for Jeremiyah Love, because it just doesn't make sense to waste the prime years of his career when you know you're not going to be making the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, tell me about the wide receivers. So CeeDee Lamb specifically, with the whole Marv thing, you and I have talked about Marv with your draft analyst hat on, with the crossover hat on and everything. Were you one of them that said Marv was one of the highest graded prospects to come out of college, irrespective of position, since you've been in this draft class? Yes. I know it was you and it was Trev. It was Trevor Sikkema too that said this was one of the highest graded guys ever. So it's just funny. Now, my question is, say Marv and CeeDee Lamb flip-flopped. And this was CeeDee Lamb's 3rd year. Like, he's really hit the last couple of years. Do you think Marv's production drops would be lower? Do you think he'd be a better wide receiver with Dak Prescott in the Dallas system?
Yeah, because Dak is a really good quarterback, and really good quarterbacks, number one, know how to take care of their receivers, right? Get them targets early in these games, get them into a rhythm, get them on routes that they know that they like to run. Like CeeDee Lamb loves running out of the slot against zone coverage. He's so good at finding the soft spot, and they get him going early in these games. His confidence gets up, and by the second half, you can't stop him. But when you're Marvin Harrison Jr. and you've been playing with a lot of different quarterbacks and you're playing on the outside as a sacrificial X, and everything is going to be contested because you're not running a bunch of in-breaking routes, it's really difficult. And I think if you're a Cardinal fan, you're hoping that LaFleur allows them to go across the middle more. I thought this was one of the best drag route and dig route receivers we've ever seen coming out of college. And unfortunately, they just didn't really use him that way early in his career. I also just think quarterbacks know how to throw the ball so they're not in danger. They can protect them a little bit. Having a good quarterback is really a cheat code for young receivers.
I'm not going to talk about which quarterback you're talking about, but everybody knows which quarterback you're talking about. Yeah, and the drag routes that he did run, he was scoring touchdowns. There was one sweeping drag route his rookie year in Miami where Kyler Murray put it on the dot on the short right side pylon. He catches it, toe taps. He's pretty much parallel to the ground and scores a touchdown. Like, what I see for receivers, you see it with CeeDee Lamb, with George Pickens, who's more Randy Moss than anything. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be Randy Moss, but his 50-50 ball play is absolutely insane.
That's what makes him such a unique player. Yeah.
And the fact that he doesn't break his back when he goes down, like knock on wood, like some guys get hurt. DJ Moore, whenever he goes on the ground, he gets hurt after he jumps in the air. Other guys just bounce back up. It's crazy. Having a nose for the end zone, knowing those 10 yards of pay dirt and being so efficient, that's what Marv has been able to do from day one. And that's what's so frustrating, that between the 20s, he's kind of a goober at times. And inside the 20s, he's everything you thought he was going to be coming out of college. The touchdown numbers do not lie to people. He's at 12 in his first 2 years, and he missed half of last year. That's a lot. So that's why I'm just like, chill the hell out. He's going to be fine. You got Nathaniel Hackett with Devontae Adams years. You have Mike LaFleur. You got Matt Schaub, who threw the ball to Andre Johnson for years. Like, he's going to be in a good spot, right? Do you think this is the year it's make or break for him this year?
Yeah. Make or break's hard, because I still think even if you were to have a bad year, there's going to be teams around the NFL that are calling, believing that they can. I'm saying,
are there question marks about him not being an Arizona Cardinal after this year? If he's 600 for 6.
This is something that we've talked about on Locked On Fantasy Football a lot this offseason is, hey, if this thing goes really poorly for the Cardinals and they're 1-6 or whatever the record is by the time we get to the deadline, is it possible that a team could be sniffing around, trying to throw, buy low, give Arizona a second round pick? Possibly. Like I wouldn't rule out that scenario, but I think the more likely scenario is he just goes ham early in the season and has a big breakout year. And he kind of reminds everybody, hey, I'm that dude. I'm going to be a 1,300-yard receiver. I'm better than, let's say, like Drake London, who has put up big stats in Atlanta. Let me just get with the right offense, with the right coach, and I'll show you.
Yeah. This is kind of turned into a Locked On Cardinals interview session. We're going to talk more about the Cowboys next. We're going to kind of scrap. We're going to talk a little bit about the game on Saturday. I want to get more in depth about what the Cowboys are looking at 3 weeks before the season starts, because there's a lot of question marks. Shoddy's second year after going 7-9. What does the offense look like outside of George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb and Javonte? We'll talk about that next.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Ross Jackson, host of the Locked On Saints podcast, and today's Locked On episode is brought to you by our friends at Bask and Lather. I've been using Bask and Lather's all-natural, 100% organic hair care products for my beard for a couple years now, and it's been a lifesaver because I used to have some bad beard care habits. I'm talking over-the-counter shampoo in the beard type stuff that created this brittle, scratchy, and uncomfortable beard that I just had to wear around all the time. But now the game done changed. Thanks to Bask and Lather, I got their beard care starter kit, which gave me shampoo, conditioner, oil balm, and their hair growth stimulator formula as well. And now my beard is full. It's soft but strong, and the confidence is on 10, and it's all thanks to Bask and Lather. Explore viral bestsellers and products of healthier hair of all types from Bask and Lather. Go to baskandlatherco.com and use the promo code LOCKEDON for 20% off. That's 20% off at baskandlatherco.com, code LOCKEDON.
All right, Marcus. So let's get, what does this offense got to look like to carry the defense, even though they've got a nice front, obviously re-signing Quinn Williams to a big deal. They've got some pieces there. So this isn't like a trash heap defense by any stretch, but what does the offense need to do to lead the charge outside of CD and George Pickens going banana sandwich?
Well, that's the thing, right? We know those guys are going to just have such a heavy load in the offense. And we know Javonte Williams is going to get a lot of work as well. It's just, is there anybody else that can shoulder some of the load and take some of the pressure off of CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens? And the good news is Ryan Flanoy, who had kind of a breakout season last year for Dallas, has been unbelievable in training camp. And it just gives them this other receiver that can play on the outside, that can play in the slot. Now, he's not going to be a 1,000-yard receiver or anything like that, but can he be good enough where you can start some drives with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens on the bench to give them a little bit of a breather, or feel like, hey, in 2 receiver sets, hey, let's give CeeDee Lamb 5 snaps off so he can be fresh on third down. If that ends up being the case, I just don't see how you're going to stop this passing attack, because now you've got 3 guys who should be fresh as the game goes on. But I think the thing that at least Cowboy fans are paying attention to in the preseason is, how good could this defense be? Because if they're we said at the beginning, if they're the 22nd ranked defense, they're going to be in the postseason. If they're the 14th ranked defense, they might be like the number 2 or number 3 seed. If they're a top 10 defense, which I don't think that's realistic, but we've seen some teams dramatically change from one year to another. if they're a top 10 defense under Christian Parker, we might be talking about a team that could actually challenge the Rams in the NFC. So there's a wide range of outcomes here. They believe that the core of like Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary, Caleb Downs, that's going to be enough to give them at least some chances on defense. And if any of these young guys hit, or if Christian Parker becomes that dude, maybe this is a team that could be a real underdog in the NFC.
Yeah, and everything out of camp shows that Caleb Downs is everything is advertised. Yeah. There were floats about the Cardinals maybe taking him at 3. I'm like, I don't care. If you're going to go non-premium, I'd almost rather go defense and offense. But Jeremiyah Love is going to be fun. Caleb Downs is going to be fun for many, many years to come. And listen, you're going to love Jalen Thompson.
Oh,
okay?
Yeah.
You're going to love Jalen Thompson if you don't already. Like, he was kind of an odd man out here. They weren't going to pay him the money that Jerry did. And it's upwards of 36 over 3 years, which is more than the Cardinals wanted to spend. But yeah, you're going to be in good shape there.
And here's the thing: if you're going to have someone like Caleb Downs, who's going to play in the slot, who's going to be a nickel linebacker, you kind of need that other safety that can also do a lot of that, same things and be versatile. And Jalen Thompson can do that. And what's really nice about Dallas is they've got safety depth with Malik Hooker, who they feel really good about. They've got 3 safeties that they feel awesome about that can all move all over the field. Curious to see how it plays out.
Yeah. And, with the Cardinals offense, it's really going to be an embarrassment of riches that at some point needs to be manicured. Mm-hmm. That's the big thing. It's like, it's very raw right now. They're a baby giraffe. You don't know exactly what it's going to look like. And then maybe you see Jeremiyah Love catching more balls than you thought. Maybe you see Tyler Algier taking more of that brunt work in between the tackles. And then you see Marv emerge, or you see Michael Wilson. Like, it's terrifying and exciting to not know exactly what it's going to be for both of these offenses. Like, what you think it's going to be. Right. At least the quarterback play obviously is going to be elite over in Dallas. And then you just kind of hope the defense can hold up, because you're right. The top 20, that's the goal.
And the thing for Arizona is this is something that the Raiders have talked about with Fernando Mendoza. It's not when Mendoza is ready. It's when is the rest of the offense ready for a rookie quarterback? And I'm assuming Arizona is going to feel the same thing about Carson Beck. If Marvin Harrison Jr. is playing well and the offensive line can hold up, I know that Chase Basanta's injury is a bummer, but if the offensive line can just be adequate, maybe we do see Carson Beck and you get half the season to kind of evaluate him. You just want to see a strong infrastructure on the offensive side of the ball to allow you to develop that quarterback. And for Dallas on defense, you just want to have 5, 6, 7 guys that you feel good about, and then rotate everybody else in until you find the right combination to give yourself a chance.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's obviously easy when the quarterback's going to be for 17 weeks, barring some sort of injury. Yeah, you're right. But I mean, like, for me, it's like, that's another year down the drains for Trey McBride. I mean, that's another year. That's another year. That's another year. Hurts.
Now, the good thing is all these guys are young. Jeremiyah Love, Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson, and even tight ends. Like, you can
be 27 in November, which isn't like, but they're not babies anymore. Like, I think it's hard to look at existentially, because it's like, oh, he can play another 10 years. Great. Only 6 are going to be where he is right now.
Correct. That's always the hard part about tanking in the NFL. And it's why it really doesn't work, is because you can never, it's so hard to get all of these guys in their primes lined up at the same time with the rest of the talent level on your roster.
Yeah. Yeah. But the Carson Beck thing, like, I've said ever since they drafted him, the best way for the Cardinals to be ahead of the curve is if Carson Beck works. Like, that's the best way. But the variance is obviously significantly higher unless you can Brock Purdy the hell out of this thing and just drop him in, know the right place to call, do the Jim Harbaugh thing. For those that I always go back to this, Marcus will remember this. Alex Smith was a bust in the NFL the first 3 or 4 years. He was a third stringer on San Francisco. Jim Harbaugh comes in, has him run 8 plays, and he's made $200 million since. Like, it's all about how you build an offense around the skill set of a guy. And because Carson Beck is 6'4" and 240, and he's played all these games, like, it could work, but they also have a fiduciary responsibility to start the best quarterback. And until Jacoby Brissett's not the best quarterback, or Gardner Minshew's not the best quarterback, he's not going to start. It's not a good thing if Carson Beck starts this year. Yes, that's the problem. That's the problem. So, Marcus, going into Saturday, let's talk 2 minutes, because obviously we have a fiduciary responsibility to talk about the game for Saturday. Is it just stay healthy, run the plays?
Yes, but there are still players that are fighting for,
of course,
spots on the roster. And like for me, Joe Milton, the Cowboys' backup quarterback. Dak Prescott has not been the pinnacle of health over the last 5 or 6 years. They need to find a capable backup quarterback. Is it Sam Howell? Is it Joe Milton? That's what I'm looking for. We talked about the running backs. And then just on defense, they have a big issue at cornerback right now. We know they're top 3. The rest of the guys, I would be fine leaving in Oxnard and just picking up cornerbacks on the market. But I want to see, is there anybody on defense that can make a couple plays and just help you feel better about like the linebacker position, the defensive tackle position? Because I think they lack some depth on that side of the ball.
Yeah, and defensively, before we get out of here, it's the same for the Cardinals. The Cardinals they've got Garrett Williams, who hopefully he'll be off the pup by week 1, so he'll be able to play. Will Johnson is, he's looked good in camp. They've got Denzel Burke, 5th-round pick out of Ohio State, who made the all-rookie team last year. Max Melton is back. Stark Thomas is back, who tore his ACL before last season. They've got guys. Okay, they've got guys, and it's a matter of, again, manicuring down to see who the starters are going to be, what the rotational pieces are going to be. The Cardinals' problem is their pass rush is so non-existent at this point that you've got to rely on the DBs to be able to kind of carry the weight, which is never what you want. It's like shooting threes instead of setting up, with the low post game first and then kicking it out for threes. It's not how you build a competent defense for the most part, unless you're the Legion of Boom. But it's very important with the DBs. I agree with you. Like there's a lot of synonyms here with both teams. A lot of uncertainty, different certainty, obviously higher expectations for the Cowboys, not only with their talent level, but also who they are. But this is going to be a fun game Saturday night. It's the preseason home opener for the Cardinals. And Marcus, this has been awesome. At Marcus_Mosier on Twitter. At Clancy's Corner for me. We will talk to you on our respective podcast tomorrow.